Well, look who's back. The fat boy is in the house. First time back in the shop in just almost exactly 3 months to the day. Many of you know that I contracted COVID on the 22nd of December, and I was hospitalized on the 26th for right at 2 weeks, 13 days. And it's been a long, tough road to recovery. I'm off O2. I don't need that anymore. Not even at night. I was using it at night for about 2 weeks. Connected with my CPAP, and I was going without it during the day. My nurse said, home health nurse said that I still had a little congestion in the lower lobes. That was a week and a half ago. Yeah, but I'm clear now, and I probably will only have one more visit with her, and that's our final evaluation visit. So I'm being released, and that means I can play in the shop. Yay! I hate long intros. My gosh, I'm sorry about that. Now, what we're going to do today is I'm going to take this. I'm going to start simple. It's been a while. So I'm going to start simple. Simple? Yeah, simple. I'm going to take this piece of live oak. Billy, I thought you were going to start simple. Well, I like cutting oak. I'm going to take this piece of live oak. Live oak. It was just a small piece I had laying around. And I like the grain of it. Billy, I thought you were allergic to oak and you've been having lung issues. Yeah, that's why I'm going to be wearing a mask the whole time. And I'll be having my dust collector on also the whole time. So that hopefully will cool everything down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little piece of oak because I really like the look of that grain in there. So I'm going to attempt to do somewhat of a live edge winged bow. So I'm going to use the live edge. It's longer than it is, it's wider than it is high. It's roughly 2.5, 3 inches thick. So I'm going to try this will be the bottom, so a lot of this will turn away anyway. So it may just be an oblong, not really winged. It won't be winged, now that I'm looking at it. It'll just be an oblong natural edge bow. At least, I think that's what it's going to be. I definitely want to make this the bottom regardless. Let's get on and make this little dish. I'm reluctant to call it a bowl because it's not going to be very big. It's 4.5 by 6. Shut up, Billy. Let's get to the lathe and see what we can do. One last thing before we do that. Mail call. I got a sticker from Wendy, Toonfish Crafts. You can find her on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and even Twitter. Again, Toonfish Crafts. She is an absolute sweetheart. I lovingly refer to her as my little UK hippie. Wendy, I think I'm gonna put you right here. Hopefully you got yours already. And as always, I'm gonna put a link to her channel right there. Y'all go check Wendy out and give her some love. Great gal. She's not a turner. She does a lot of resin crafts, and she's just absolutely awesome. So check her out. Thanks, Wendy. I've got the mic underneath my face shield. Mask and face shield is on. Let's see what kind of damage we can do. That's about 730. Let's do this downhill. That's the problem when you're cutting a lot of air. Yeah, see, smooth cut. Now you're tearing this stuff off. Smooth cut because you're going with the grain. Rough because you're tearing it off against the grain. So that's why I was going downhill, to try to minimize some of that. Didn't work exactly, but it will eventually. About 900. That'll help too. See, nice and even. That's almost the same as this. It's off a little, but it's pretty close. I'm going to drill a hole for a worm screw in here because I really want a mortise on the back, not a tenon. If I was going for a tenon, I could just cut that here, but a tenon, I'll lose more of this wood than I want to, so I want a mortise in here to hold this. I'm going to go to the drill press and drill me a hole for my worm screw, my wood worm screw, and I'll be right back. Made my mark for my mortise. I'm going to flatten this off. Now I got my dovetail. Mortises don't have to be real deep. This one isn't, but it's nice and flat. Now, the only thing I have to worry about is this live oak grain has a tendency to be a little bit fragile because it just goes everywhere. So I want to leave the rim of this fairly substantial. By fairly substantial, I mean I want the foot to be roughly a half inch to between a half inch and 3/4, say 5/8 inches wide. And that's my border. So now we can start refining the outside shape. Try my 3/8 40/40 grind, see if I can smooth some of this up just a little bit. It did, it smoothed it out some. This big scraper is from Benjamin's Best. You can get those from PSI, Penn State Industries. You see the glove in the picture. I have a skin condition in my right palm that I have to keep protected. So it's just one of those things. I believe I'm ready to sand. If I cut any more of this off, it's just going to be too steep, and I don't want that. So I don't mind leaving these little ovals. I cut too much away from here to start with. That's my mistake. I should have just left it all up. It is what it is. Again, I'm rusty. I know my name's Billy, but I'm rusty. I'm going to sand in reverse. And the reason I went in reverse is because it would smooth these edges off, and it did. Got some cracking. I think I want to fill these with brown CA. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hit this with some 120, still in reverse. So I'm going to flood this with some sanding sealer, shellac, and let it dry, and then I'll fill these cracks with, I think I'm going to use brown. Wow, I can't believe how tired I'm getting. The reason that I'm using the shellac on here is to flood the grain so that when I put the brown CA in, it won't be so apt to stain the oak. For those that weren't aware, live oak is a white oak. It's not a red oak. Now I'll let this dry for a little while, and then I will fill these cracks with medium brown CA just to help stabilize them and give them a better look. And it's only been a few hours, but I've actually done more than what you see on camera. So I'm going to call it quits for the day, or at least for a few hours, and we'll rest. I'm just beat. Man, I can't believe how bad this thing is hitting me. I'll be back. cracks with brown CA, and I've sanded this to 220, and I've got 3 coats of shellac sanding sealer on it, and I burnt my logo in the bottom. You can't see that. Oh yeah, you can. Now it's time for me to take this off, turn it around, and let's see what we can do with it. It's in there tight. And yes, I'm wearing my mask, dust mask. And as you can hear, I've got my dust collector on. The reason I'm showing this, see how my 60-degree live center is going in this hole? That will help me make sure that it's center before I tighten this up. And I will re-tighten every now and then. I don't want to tighten it too much because I can blow the walls of that mortise out. I've done that before with live oak, which is why I left the walls a little thick, and that spins pretty true. Now to give you a better shot, I'm gonna have to change cameras. When I get the other camera set up, giving you a shot in this way. I'll come back. Well, y'all are not gonna believe this. Well, you might. That's my new camera. And I put the card in, and I hit record from the back side and wasn't paying attention to the screen. Thought I was recording, hollowed this out with my elbow tool, sanded the inside, talked to you guys the whole time, got shellac on the inside, shellac on the outside. I explained why I cut this off like I did. Just underneath the bark, live oak has a really cool wavy look, but insects had got in there and eaten the surface of that cambrian off, and I wasn't happy with it. So I cut this down to this shape because I'm going to dye this just from here up blue so that I can submit this in the YouTube CCC 21 challenge. The theme for this month is water. That's why I'm going to go with blue, maybe a little green added into it. So I'm going to stain this, and before I do that, I'm going to mix up some blue epoxy. I just finished putting a couple of coats of sanding sealer on here. So I'm going to mix up some blue epoxy and fill these cracks. I used brown CA on the back, if you remember, and right here. But I'm going to use blue epoxy here, and then I'm going to cut this back smooth and dye it blue, and we'll commence to finishing this. I'm sorry y'all missed me fussing and fighting. It really wasn't that much fighting. I got this hollowed out again using my elbow tool. I'm tired, I'm winded, and I'm really upset that I didn't get this recorded. The card said protected, and it wasn't protected. I'm using a micro SD card. This camera takes a full-size SD card. I'm using a micro in an adapter, and apparently the adapter, this camera don't like it. I put the card in a different adapter, it works just fine. So, I'll pay more attention to that from here on out. So let me mix up some blue epoxy and we'll get to doing this. Okay, I've got the epoxy on it, and I'm letting it so that it doesn't sag anywhere. It's 30-minute epoxy. I'm just gonna let this spin at 50 RPM for a few minutes, and then I'll shut it off and let it cure overnight. I'm gonna go in. I am beat. Okay, this is dried overnight. So I'm gently gonna shear scrape this to get the most of the epoxy off. Mask on, dust collector on, face shield on, boogie. The rest of that is sand, and I'm just going to start with 150. I think that's enough. Now 220. This may not look worth a crap when I'm done. We're going to find out. I'm going over this with navy now. navy blue. Blending in the emerald green and the aquamarine. Do a little touch-up sanding over here. Now all that's left is the finish, which means I need to decide what finish I'm going to use. This is a result of the epoxy. I guess I didn't get it sanded quite down as much as I thought, but it gives it a kind of an interesting look, I think. You know what I'm going to try? I'm going to do one more thing. This is General Finishes White Mist Oil Stain. Got some of that down in the pores of that oak. It lightened it up some too. And I think once I let this dry and put a finish on it, it's going to be pretty cool. Do I want to go the quick route and use my go-to spray-on lacquer, or do I want to use antique oil? I don't know. I think lacquer. And I really need to let this dry a good 10 hours. So I'm going to let this dry overnight, and I'll take it off the lathe and take it over to my workbench, and I'll spray the finish on the top and bottom. But before I do that, we need to beautify this a little bit. What do you mean by that, Billy? What I mean is I want to get rid of this lip. It doesn't mean anything to anybody but a wood turner. The average public really doesn't care, but a wood turner will look at the bottom and say, oh, that's how he finished it. Or how he held it on the lathe, that is. That's just to give it a little bit of character. Okay, bottom's turned, everything's turned. I'm going to call this my USO bowl. I use watercolors. I use water type colors, hues, and I need to let this stain dry overnight, which is good for me anyway because I overdid it yesterday. So I woke up hurting pretty good. So I'm going to take this over to the bench. I'm going to let it sit overnight, and then in the morning I'll come back and hit it with lacquer, and we'll finish this video up. That's coat 2. I'll probably put 4 on, and then I'll turn it over and do the top. Okay, that's coat 1 on the top. Coat number 2. I'll do this 2 more times. She'll be done. So, here it is in all its 4.5-inch grandeur. It's not really painted, it's just stained. You can still see the grain through it. But the grain up here in the top was somewhat nondescript, so it's not that big a deal, but the inside has some character. And the bottom's got my logo. I left these flats from the chainsaw. I just smoothed them up some. I didn't sand all of the cut marks out. Well, I kind of did on this side, and I left this one little piece of live edge right here. But all in all, first project back from a 3-month layup due to illness. I can't complain. I'm happy with it. Again, I'm sorry you missed the most exciting part, which was hollowing it out. Okay, that's a lie. There wasn't anything exciting about it. I took the elbow tool and I hollowed it out, just like you've seen me do in other videos where I use the elbow tool. It's not that big a deal. But if you're interested in seeing how the elbow tool works, just search my channel for ELBO space TOOL, and all my videos that I use the elbow tool in will show up, or they should, because I use it when I do deep under rims like this. Up top here, it's 1/8 to 3/16 of an inch thick. It gets, because of these flats, it gets to about a 1/2 inch right here at the point, and the bottom is probably 3/8 inch thick. So here it is, my little underwater UFO bowl. Yeah, UFO bowl. The top is blue because it's camouflaged, because if it's underwater, people coming over the top can't see it. That was just for you, Kim. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. I appreciate everybody's patience. I appreciate all the kind remarks. I appreciate the thoughts, the well wishes, all of that. I really, really do. It means more than you can imagine. For both my wife and I, and on her behalf, thank you, thank you, thank you. We're both fine. We're both doing well. We both still get tired fairly quickly. It's amazing how that works. I will get my stamina built back up, but a few hours at a time I was able to do this. So what's my next project? I don't have a clue, but this is me throwing my hat in the ring for the YouTube Cross Channel Challenge 2021. March's theme was water, and there's a water bowl, more or less. Be sure and like, subscribe if you're so inclined. Leave a comment, positive or negative, down below. It's not gonna hurt my feelings any. I got pretty thick skin. But if you do leave a negative comment, please, by all means, tell me why or what I could do to improve. Other than making sure I'm hitting the record button and it actually goes to record mode when I hit the record button. New cameras. I'm gonna blame it on the new camera. How's that? Or maybe I'll just blame it on Doug. Check out my sponsors down below. I appreciate it. Starbond, if you enter the code MESSY, if you go to their website from my link and enter the code MESSY on checkout, you get a 10% discount. Axe, abrasive paste, which I didn't use on this bowl because it's been 3 months since I've done anything and I screwed up. I cut the bottom so that I couldn't mount it again before I used the axe on it. I was supposed to polish this with Axe abrasive paste and polish and restoring paste after I got the finish on. See, that's something I learned while I was sick from some of the other people that use it, and they say it works really, really well that way. So that's what I meant to do. Sorry. Thanks again. Forgive this old rambling idiot. Y'all come back and see us. And remember, live, laugh, and love. I don't care what that stupid TV commercial tells you. I came up with it first. Y'all have a good day. Y'all come back.